Perfect. All right, so we're ready to go. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start a little bit different. Before I introduce Diana, I wanted to ask her a special favor in sharing us a little bit about her. She's got a family story that's really important where these nutrients have really supported her family in their immune system recovery. So Diana, before I introduce you for this talk today, as the host of this call, I would like to ask you to share your family's story.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Welcome everyone. So I've supported my family with a range of plant-based nutrients for probably 15, 16 years now. And about 13 years ago, my father noticed a lump in his throat, difficulty swallowing. And he went off to the doctor, and as a result of that visit and some further investigations, they lived in rural New South Wales, and he was sent straight to Sydney for about 6 or 7 weeks of radiotherapy on his throat. It was a daily grind over those 7 weeks, 5 days a week, which is a very intense experience for those that have to go through that. And of course, they asked me if there was any support or guidance that I could offer, and I increased the nutritional glycans that they were taking and increased a broad range of plant-based nutrients that they were taking. Now, as a result of that radiotherapy on his throat, he wasn't able to swallow at about week 4, and they did put a peg feed into his tummy. But my mum was really diligent, and she made sure those nutrients, which were primarily powders, tablets, she ground up and she put in through that peg feed. So they're very diligent in taking care of his base nutrition in, quite a significant way. And so and he's continued on these nutrients, ever since. And 5 years he was diligent with his follow-up with the doctor, all clear for 5 years. But he has felt that he wanted to check every single year since. He's 90 now, still taking these nutrients every day, and he is still all clear any recurrence of that lump. So we're very grateful, and he's ringing me whenever he's running low on those nutrients. He's ringing me, chasing them up. So yeah, I'm really it's very satisfying to be able to have taken care of my parents in that way.
We were having a bit of chuckle about this last night, in the fact that he's outliving all his doctors, isn't he, Diane?
He is. In fact, he said to me this year, "Oh, can you book me a follow-up with the doctor, for the throat doctor?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I rang up and the throat doctor retired. So we might have to let it go. And his GP's retiring this year, and he's outliving them all. We're going to celebrate his 90th in May. I'm looking forward to it.
Such a good news story, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'll please allow me now to formally introduce our guest speaker this morning. So who you've just heard from is Diana Hunter, a longtime and very close friend of mine. And she is an allied health professional. She was educated in the fundamentals of medicine and medical science at Cumberland College of Health Sciences in Sydney. She first learned about nutrition and health while recovering from her own personal health challenge, and she studied nutritional health ever since for the past 30 years. She has an absolute passion for educating and supporting others in experiencing optimal well-being, and she is a brilliant educator. I take notes and sit back and listen every time I have the opportunity. Diana, thank you so much for being here. So
thank you, Sharon. Hand over so I can share my screen.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you. So I'll just get my presentation up. Here we go.
And I'll just turn my camera off, Diana, but if you need anything, I'm here.
Sure, thanks, Sharon. And I will put that on full screen. There we go. So Sharon, can you let me know that you can see that now?
It's perfect, Diana. Well done.
Thank you. And thank you, Sharon, for that warm introduction. I'm delighted to be here sharing this information about nutritional glycans. And as you heard there, I have a 35-year career in either complementary health or allied health. And it was about 20 years ago, as a result of my own health journey, that I was introduced to these nutritional glycans. And I discovered that they are a profound foundation for our health and well-being. And they turned my health around at the time. So I became very passionate about sharing about these technologies, these nutritional technologies, with others and supporting them with their health. And of course, that's what leads me to be sharing this information with you today. And I'm going to start with some very basics about our health. Then I'm going to step through some of the science in regard to nutritional glycans. And we've also welcomed some very special guest speakers to be sharing their personal story with you. You know, what's happened in their life, what's happened in their health when they've added these nutritional glycans into their daily diet. So let's start at the basics. And our cells are the basic building block of our body. Scientists estimate that we have about 40 to 70 trillion cells in our body, very intelligently designed and arranged. And there's two things that our cells constantly need to do. One is to communicate, need to communicate function. And the other thing is to replicate or to reproduce. Our cells need to constantly reproduce themselves. And again, the scientists estimate about 220 billion cells are created every day in our body. So that's about 9 billion cells as we're joined together on this webinar for the next 45 minutes to an hour. So there's a lot going on in there. So if our body is made up of cells, it begs the question, what are our cells made of? Now, what is the raw material that you're putting into your body every single day to nourish your cells? It's the food we eat, what we choose to drink, and the air we breathe, isn't it? So our cells are made up of 100% nutrition. So I'm not talking about the macronutrients now, which would be your carbohydrates, your fats, your proteins. I'm talking about what they break down to in the body, the amino acids, the fatty acids, vitamins and minerals, phytochemicals. And today we're focusing on a completely unique category of nutrition called the nutritional glycans. So this is a very simple graphic of a cell. And our cells are sort of like mini bodies. They have organs. You can see some of them labeled here. They have a respiratory system, an elimination system, etc. So of the organs labeled here, which would you think is the communication center of the body? Which of these organs would be the communication center? Well, the scientists used to believe that it was the nucleus. That's where our RNA and our DNA material is stored. But when they were able to remove the nucleus from the cell, all the cellular functions kept on occurring. Everything was a business as usual. Now, the cell didn't live forever because it didn't have its replication material, it didn't have its DNA and its RNA, but all the functions continued. So as science moved on, what they discovered is that the communication system within the body is within the cell surface membrane. So this is another graphic of the cell. This is the cell surface membrane. Now that is a fatty acid layer. And what they discovered is on the surface of the cell are these little antenna-like structures. And they're either made up of a protein chain, you can see here, with a sugar chain attached, or a fatty acid, a lipid, with a sugar chain attached. And so they are either called a glycoprotein, a sugar with a protein chain, or a glycolipid, a fatty acid with a glycan chain. Now, of the 200 carbohydrates in nature, only 8 of them are known to have this communication function, and they're called nutritional glycans. So what happens is the cells come up, rub up against each other and pass information like a coded language with these antenna structures. I call it cellular braille. And for those of you with the science minds, this structure here within the cell called the Golgi apparatus, you can see it here. This is where primarily the glycan structures are put together with the protein chains, and they're pushed up through the cell surface membrane. So this is one of the leading areas of scientific research on our planet today. And this is just one example, and it is from the area of anthropology and out of the University of California in 2011. And they concluded from their research that as a result of 3 billion years of evolution of life on Earth, we've ended up that every single living cell has this complex array of cell surface glycans, and that they seem to be as essential for life as having a DNA genetic code. So we've all heard of the Genome Project. Well, now there's a Glycome Project. They're in the process of identifying these cell surface glycans. Now this very simple graphic on the left here, you know, just to show how the cells come up against each other and pass information. This picture on the right is an electron microscope photo of a living cell, and you can see this forest-like structure here on the cell surface. These are what the nutritional glycans look like. And it wasn't until the development of the electron microscope that we're actually able to even see that they existed on the cell surface. So what do our cells need to communicate? Well, and what are the glycans involved in? Well, absolutely everything within the body is communicated by these cell surface glycans, all structure and all cellular function. And the kind of things that are communicated are about nutrition. How much nutrition do we need? When do we need it? Where does our body need it? Regulation, we'd be talking about hormonal levels, body temperature, blood pressure. This is all communicated by cell surface glycans. Our body needs to detoxify and cleanse. It needs to be able to communicate about that. When we're extending ourselves beyond usual, our body is going to be calling out for extra support, and that is communicated by cell surface glycans. And then identification. Well, this is the core of our immune system function in the body. Our body needs to be able to recognize self and protect it, and to recognize non-self, like a bacteria cell or a virus cell or perhaps a cancer cell or a foreign body, and launch the immune system to deal with that. And this is communicated by these cell surface glycans. Now this slide here, I hope I can do it justice, because I believe it's the crux, the important crux of this presentation. Our cells are constantly reading signals. Now this is another graphic of our cells. This would represent the cell surface membrane. This is a graphic of one of these cell surface receptors with the glycans in red attached to the receptor. So you might have a protein chain, say, for example, here with the glycan chain attached. So constantly past the surface of the cell are signals. It might be a hormone or an enzyme, vitamin, mineral, allergen, foreign cell like a virus, bacteria, cancer. It might even be one of our own cells coming up and communicating some form of signal. Now, what happens is that leads to a cascade of cellular action. So signals coming into the cell result in some form of cellular response or cellular action. Now, the next piece of information I need to attribute to a cellular biologist, Dr. Bruce Lipton. Some of you may have heard of him. He's sometimes called the father of epigenetics. Now, prior to his work, it was thought that the health of our body, the health of our cells was predetermined by our genes. We receive our genes from our parents or from our ancestral line. And we're kind of a victim, if you like, to those genes. Now, his research, and I was watching one of his presentations recently online, and he related that if these cell surface glycans are removed, from the cell surface membrane, what do you think happens? What happens is all cellular action ceases. There's no cellular response. The cellular response is completely dependent on the ability of the cell to receive this signal. And the basis of that ability is in having a healthy amount of these glycan receptors on the cell surface membrane. And he concluded from his research that our health is not predetermined by our genes, what's going on in our RNA and DNA. It's predetermined by the signals. The signals are what is causing cellular response. So signals might be something like lifestyle factors, nutrients, which is what we're focusing on today, and our mindset, our attitude. These are all signals to the cells. So we can improve our lifestyle, we can improve our nutritional intake, we can improve our attitude and mindset, and this all improves cellular response and therefore our general health and well-being. So that's sort of the good news, because it means, we're in charge. We're not a victim. We're in charge of our health, or we can have a huge impact in improving the benefit of our health and well-being. So how important are these glycans really? Well, I've got 4 examples of how they act and how they function in our body. First of all, they're intimately involved in managing inflammation and infection in our body. This is a graphic of a blood vessel, and this here is a representation of inflammation or infection in the tissue. Now, what happens when we have an inflammation or infection is these molecules here, these are called selectins, and that there is a glycan. And these selectins, these glycans, grab onto the white cells within the blood vessel and pull them through the membrane of the blood vessel into this inflammation. So these glycans are essential for the body's response to inflammation and infection. Hugely important. Here we have a representation of our blood groups. So we've got O, A, and B blood group. And this is like a nutritional example of what our blood groups are made up of. And this here is the glycan chain. Now you can see with A, B, and O blood groups, the nutritional makeup is exactly the same to this point. But A blood group has a unique nutritional glycan on the end of the chain. And B blood group has a different unique glycan on the glycan chain. And so this is how our body recognizes blood groups or defines blood groups. So what happens if you get given the wrong blood transfusion? All hell breaks loose, doesn't it? Your body has an immune response. And that is the cells rubbing up against each other and recognizing this as a foreign entity. It doesn't. If you had, say, a B blood group and A blood group was there, it would be reading this as a foreign entity and launching an immune response. So that's how foundational these glycans are to blood group definition and blood group recognition. Hormones. How much do we hear about hormones these days? Some of our hormones are actually glycoproteins in and of themselves. So thyroid stimulating hormone is actually a glycoprotein. Now, how many people do you hear these days having problems or needing support with their thyroid? Luteinizing hormone. Now, that is the key hormone that women need for healthy ovulation. How many women do you know that are looking to become pregnant, wanting healthy ovulation? Luteinizing hormone is a glycoprotein. So they're a protein molecule with a glycan chain attached. So, some hormones are glycoproteins in and of themselves, and these glycans are essential for healthy hormonal function. Now, I think the most important or significant example is that human mother's breast milk contains 5 of the 8 known nutritional glycans. No one food on our entire planet has all 8 glycans. They're actually spread across all of our food sources. but mother's breast milk contains 5. It's one of the richest sources of nutritional glycans. And I think that speaks a lot for how important they are for the beginning of life. And science is fairly conclusive now that, you know, it's way better if our babies are breastfed. And I think there's some clues there. It's rich in nutrients, and particularly these nutritional glycans. So I'm hoping this all makes sense to you, and you know you understand that we need these glycans. So the next question is, well, where am I going to get them from? Well, we should be getting them from our food, like all our nutrition. But I rarely get any arguments these days. 10, 15 years ago, I used to have people arguing with me saying, no, we get enough nutrition from our food. I rarely have anyone believing that these days. Our food quality is diminishing and continuing to decline in nutritional content. And there's several factors behind this. We're growing our food over and over on the same soil without adequate replenishment of the broad spectrum of nutrition that needs to be in the soil if it's going to be in the produce. We're picking our produce green before it's ripened on the plant. And this significantly depletes the nutritional content. We're adding a whole range of chemicals to our food production, pesticides, fungicides, artificial chemicals. We're having to, because we're picking our food green to get it to market, you know, in a edible manner, it means that our food is transported long distances, it's in storage for long periods of time. And then in addition to that, we're processing our food. So we've got leading nutritional experts now saying that one of the most dangerous places for our health is the supermarket because of the depleted nutritional content. And then unfortunately, in addition to that, we have increasing toxic load that we're all exposed to. You know, were you aware that since the 1930s and 40s, we've launched over 100,000 new synthetic chemicals that onto Earth that didn't even exist before that time. Our body isn't designed to live with those chemicals. It just copes with them as best it can. And if you think you're escaping exposure to these chemicals, well, you're going to have to think again. You're going to have to review that, because all animals tested, or fish, humans tested, wherever they've been living, tests in the North and South Pole have shown chemical load. We're all exposed. And it's also having such an impact that there's evidence from scientific studies that our immune system is declining. It's deteriorated in function of around 30% in the last 20 years, and showing evidence of continual decline. So unfortunately, that's the sad news part of this presentation. So, you know, if we don't have the nutrition available in our food to nourish ourselves, do we need to consider supplementing? Well, again, I believe the science is solid on this. There was a study back in 1994, so we're talking 25 years ago. It was already evident that 6 of these 8 glycans were deficient in our modern diet. A study back in 1995 that was looking into the antioxidant content of our food, so the nutrition that protects our cells from cellular damage, was so deficient that we need to have at least 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables in our daily diet. And I'm sure you've heard those recommendations. That exact same study was repeated in 2012, so about 7 years ago now. And as a result of those studies, they doubled the recommendations. Now, you may not have heard that. And 7 to 14 fruits and vegetables a day is a completely ludicrous recommendation to the general public. And who could even maintain that kind of a diet if they could afford it? Vitamins, there was a study back in 2002. So again, we're talking 17 years ago. And based on that study into the vitamin content of the average adult's diet, the American Medical Association, now they are an extremely conservative medical body. They came out in their journal and said that pending evidence from these trials, it appears prudent that all adults take vitamin supplements. And here we have an example of the modern pyramid, food pyramid. And it's interesting now that leading medical educational bodies, Harvard Medical School, they now add nutritional supplements to their food pyramid. And many of my friends are very happy they also add the odd glass of wine, obviously in moderation, but we all know that there's some benefits now, scientific evidence of the occasional glass of wine. So if we're going to supplement, again, it's buyer beware, because you may not realize that the majority of nutritional products are actually synthetically manufactured. The manufacturing industry got on the bandwagon. They realized the depletion in nutritional content in our food. They jumped on the bandwagon. I thought, well, here's some money to be made. We'll make a whole bunch of synthetic chemical-based nutrients and offer them to the general public. And as a result, 95% of vitamin and mineral supplements on the market today are synthetically based, primarily a byproduct of the petroleum industry. And minerals are often just ground up rocks. We're not meant to consume ground up rocks. That's not how our body was designed. It was designed to receive minerals from plants. The minerals are taken up by the plant, converted into a form that our body can take in and metabolize. So any form of intelligent supplementation should be food-based wherever possible. Food source, science-based, proven effective. When you put that in your body, you're actually going to get a result. So the highest quality available, and also known to be safe. That when you put that in your body, one, you're going to get a result, but two, that it's safe, that you can take that also alongside any pharmaceutical medication that you may need to be taking. And so it's at this point that I'd like to introduce you, and if you don't know about the company already, Mannatech. Now, Mannatech are an international research and development company. They've been in Australia for 20 years now, but they were founded in 1994, and they specialise in the development of food-derived nutritional supplements, and they're world leaders in this area of nutritional glycans. And their products are available now in 27 countries around the world. And they have invested more than $50 million of research into their product development over the last 20 years or so. And that assures us that these products are safe and effective. And they are the only company worldwide that have developed a plant-based supplement of these 8 nutritional glycans, and it's called Ambritose. And it has a 22-year proven track record now, and it truly is the foundation for cellular communication in our body. Now, in my 20 years of association with this company, I've seen some heartwarming and outstanding health results that people have received when they've added these into their diet. And you're going to hear of a couple of those in a moment. But in addition to that, Mannatech are a science company, and they've done the science. And scientifically proven that when you add these nutritional glycans into your diet, there's a support to increase your immune health, improve this cellular communication mechanism that we've been talking about, improvements in brain function, concentration, memory, reaction time, improvement in mood. Now, who doesn't need support in mood these days with the amount of stress that we're all under? It promotes digestive health. And we're hearing more and more about the importance of healthy digestion these days, and how that also relates to our energy levels and definitely our brain function. And the science moves on, and Mannatech are continually performing scientific research. And there was a study recently that showed that adding these nutritional glycans to your diet actually improves your body's ability to respond to bacterial vaccines. And I think you're going to be seeing more and more, encouraging research coming out over the years to come. So it's time for me to take a break and ask one of our guest speakers to come forward and share, well, what, proof's in the pudding. What happens when you put these nutrients into your body on a daily basis? And one of our guest speakers today is Sandy Braid. So Sandy, could you turn on your video there so we can see you? There you are. Welcome, Sandy. Thanks for sharing your story this morning.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for having me, and thank you for Sharon for organising all these calls every week. She does a brilliant job. I know there's a team of you, and we really appreciate it.
She does. If you could just speak up just a little, Sandy, that'd be...
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Want everyone to be able to hear
you. Would you like me to start now, my story?
Yes,
okay. My health story journey started when I was 26 back in 1982, and I was diagnosed with a serious health condition. I had radiotherapy and drugs to treat the problem. Unfortunately, the drugs made me feel worse than the actual condition, but I managed to get through it. I then, 10 years later, I was diagnosed again. So I went through the same sorts of treatment again and again. You know, as much as they tell you that their treatments have improved, you still feel like, you know, crap and struggled to get through the day, but, you know, I got through again. 9 years later, I was diagnosed again. This time I had the medication or the drugs and an operation. Again, still struggled to get through each time, but managed to get there. At this point, I'd managed to have 3 children. So not only did I have to sort of get myself through the day, I had to get up and get 3 children organised for the day. But, you know, you do what you'd have to do when you're a mother. Then about 3 years later, I was diagnosed again. So 4 times I'd been diagnosed and treated for the same condition. As I said, it was, you know, a struggle each time, but you just do when you've got a family, you sort of get through each day. Then in 2007, someone gave me some information about these glycans, and I thought, well, I've done everything that doctors have told me. I've had all the treatments, I've had all the operations. I didn't really think I needed to take them until 12 months later, when I was diagnosed a 5th time with the same condition, which I didn't think was possible, but it happened. And this time, though, they actually told me I was terminal. Have a good Christmas and get your affairs into order, which was a bit earth-shattering, I guess, you know, for me and my family. You know, it's hard enough to deal with being diagnosed again, but to be told that, you know, get your affairs into order, which means, you know, you've got to basically say goodbye to everybody. So I had to make the decision whether do I live or do I die? And of course, you know, I wanted to live, but it was more than just wanting to live. I had to actually do something positive about it. So that's when I'd already sort of started on the glycans by that stage. So Karen Dennis was guiding me, so we actually increased the amounts I was taking, because I was determined that it wasn't going to beat me. And 18 months after starting, I actually had a growth come out onto the outside of my chest. Doctors thought that the condition would actually go to my organs, and so they didn't think they could operate. So I had numerous scans to make sure that it hadn't gone to my organs, and when they realised it hadn't, they actually removed the growth from my chest. They took my sternum plus some ribs, because my ribs were actually damaged by the radiotherapy I'd had all those 30 odd years ago. So that was back in 2010. I take no other medication or any other kind of drugs. The only thing I take is the Mannatech products. And I know that the products have not cured anything, but they've just given my body what it needs for it to be able to function properly and for it to fight whatever comes along. And there's no way I'll ever stop taking them. And I love sharing them with other people.
Thanks, Sandy. What a powerful story. My heart is with you. And just thinking about your courage, you know, to, you know, keep stepping forward and then, you know, take the option to nourish yourself in such a deep way that it's sort of putting in your body in optimal function within your circumstances. It really also reminds me in my heart, while I'm still here 20 years later, just, you know, the impact on people's life is so powerful. And I'm sure that your stories benefited people today. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
And I think we'll ask Sue Price. Who's up? There you are, Sue. Thanks for joining us, Sue. I know it takes courage to come forward and share your personal story with a bunch of strangers. So we do thank you. If you can go ahead.
Thank you, Diana. I'm all emotional after listening to Sandy.
Yeah.
You're one courageous woman.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Amazing
Yeah.
story. Time to share mine, okay. Well, I was first diagnosed, I was first introduced to Manitech products. It was either the very end of 2000 or beginning of 2001. And at the time, it was because I was traveling a lot, like on and off planes with my work, mainly Australia, New Zealand, a couple of trips a year to the US. And, you know, just to protect my immune system, because every time I got on the plane, you know, you get sniffles and stuff like that. And also, I was working in the events industry, really long hours, crazy hours. And I think the Manitech products I took back then, there wasn't a lot of products, but I took them. They really, really supported me during that time of my life. And I continued to take Manitech right through. But when I stopped that job, moved up to the Sunshine Coast, and, you know, just having watched Diana, you'd wonder why I would make this choice. But I thought, I'm eating really healthily now. We go to the farmers markets and we have fresh this and all of that stuff. I can sort of cut back. So I did. And, you know, I felt healthy. I was going along and, you know, there's two different things. There's healthy, isn't there, and there's fit. And I sometimes get them confused because I'd go to the gym regularly, do yoga, do everything else. And I thought, well, you know, all of that helps, which it does help our health, obviously, overall, but we still need the nutrition. And yeah, I was just sitting here watching your presentation, Diana, going, oh my God, what was I thinking? But anyway, the information we have now was a lot more than we had earlier, so I'm not going to blame myself. During 2015, the second part of the year, I started getting a lot of reflux. I never had reflux in my life. I started getting pains across sort of where my bra strap is at the back of my chest, and the occasional burning sensation in my chest. And I've always preferred natural remedies as opposed to medical. And so I kept going to my chiropractor, having acupuncture, doing all these other things. And in the end, it was my chiropractor, who's also an acupuncturist, said, so there's something else going on in your body. You really have to go and see the GP. So I went to the GP into 2015 and had chest x-rays and different things. And then she said, I think we need to have an endoscopy. So mid-January in 2016, I had an endoscopy and, of course, found out some information no one wants to find out. I had a lot of cells on my esophagus that had gone bad. And anyway, after various other testing and things, we found out it was contained to my esophagus. So there was a surgeon in Brisbane that it's very, very long surgery, like 7.5 hours. But basically, he just removed not just that part of the cells, but the whole esophagus, and they sort of rebuild your body. And I went, that's a good option. Don't have to have chemicals in my body then. But when we went and saw him, he said, no, he wanted me to have radiation and some chemical stuff to help the radiation reduce what he was taking out, or, you know, to just help with the operation. It wasn't a lot of stuff, but it was still there. By this stage, I'd really upped my glycan consumption. And I made a choice that I wasn't going to tell any of the doctors I was dealing with what I was taking, because I knew that mostly they say, don't take anything, you know, and they don't understand. what glycans are. They're not, sort of what do you call it? Synthetic vitamins and all that stuff. Anyway, so I'm not talking about this. I'll just take them. And I did. Sometimes it was difficult because it got with the radiation, I got to a stage where I could hardly swallow. I was on liquid food. And, it was just like, anyway, I was mainly living on shakes. And so I would have the Manatech, have a beautiful shake and put all my stuff in there. And sometimes I would just, be sick again. And I'd go, well, that's a lot of money. But anyway, I persevered through and had my surgery. It was a very long surgery. There was a few extra complications that we didn't expect. And I was in hospital for almost 3 weeks. So when I came out, I continued to take high levels of glycans and other Manatech products. Got to a point, it was a long time before I could actually have some of the plus, the hormonal support one I love. And it's a very big one, And Sharon said to me, crush it. So Ivan was crushing them for me and doing whatever we could do to get the stuff back into my body. Fast forward, I think it was 2 years, the surgeon that I saw required his patients to have checkups every 3 months for the first 2 years and then 6 monthly checkups up until 5 years. So at my 2-year mark, I was waiting in the waiting room to see him. And there was another lady there who had her surgery a month before me. And there was a gentleman there who was about my time. And I don't like comparing myself to other people, but I really did this day because I was just like amazed. This lady who was a little bit before me was saying how she still couldn't do housework. She couldn't do that. Her husband was doing all of this. And, she was still in a really bad way, like I was when I first came out of hospital. I'm just thinking I'm living a normal life, really. Anyway, when I got in to see my surgeon, I commented to him, how come? And he said, I don't know. He said, your nutritional indicators in my blood results, like I have big blood tests every time, are really amazing. And he said, you've got a great attitude. That helps, blah, blah. But, I can remember calling Sharon straight after and sharing, I can't believe it. I'm just like chalk and cheese with, and it really, that's when it really brought home to me what a role these products had in my recovery. 6 months later, my check, when I saw my surgeon, sorry, this is emotional.
Take time, Sue.
He was retiring from private practice, and part of the thing was he was going to introduce Ivan, my husband, who's hiding behind me, and myself to, the new guy that would be seeing me for the remaining 2.5 years of my checkups. Flicking through all my blood indicators and everything else, and then he examined me, came back, and he said, I don't want to see you again. And he said, no, you don't need to see anybody. He said, your recovery has been remarkable and you just had a brush with this and, I think you'll live to a ripe old age. Can I just say it was Manatech alone? Of course not. I was very lucky. I have the utmost respect for the surgeon I had, the people that played a part in it. The fact that I recovered like I did, looking at other people, I know that was these products. And, I do woo things too. I had other healing sessions and things that I know helped and played a part in my recovery and my getting through this. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Sue. My heart's full again. It's such a potent story and, really important note to finish on that, these products, or these glycans are a vital part of a multidisciplinary approach when there's a serious health challenge to address. And we're not claiming that they're curing or, disease or problems in and of themselves, but what they're doing is providing the foundation, the nutrients that science has proven that the body needs on a daily basis to maintain health. And yours is your story of recovery is a perfect example of that. Optimal, beyond expectations recovery when you're nourished, in this way. When you're improving the signals to your cells. And also in your story is the important thing, we don't know what's going on in there. Even though we feel healthy, we don't know what's going on in our body at a cellular level. And it's important to, look to the science of what we need. Look to the science of, what does our body need on a daily basis? And, you've acted intelligently and committed fashion and, being rewarded with that, the result. So, yeah. Thank you so much, Sue. Oh, so I need to move forward from here. And as I've said already, Mannatech are a science company. And as such, as science evolves and allows, Mannatech integrates that science into their products. And over the last few months, we've only had it for about 4 months now, a new premium enhanced Ambitose product is now available in Australia. It's called Ambitose Life. So it has all the benefits of our nutritional glycan product. In addition, it has increased amounts of some of the key nutritional glycans within the mix. The mannopol, which is the mannose, the galactose, which is from arabinogalactan, and the fucoidins, which is from a seaweed, wakame. So that might not mean too much to you. It's very all science, but the mannose is our mannose is the only true ACE mannan, which is the healing factor within aloe vera. We all know through generations of history the power of the aloe vera plant. It's in the Bible. It's been around for forever. And the healing component in that is mannose, and that its stabilized form is ACE mannan, and Mannatech have the world's only true ACE mannan product. It's called Mannopol, and that's what's in our Ambitose products, and it's increased within Ambitose Life. Galactose is one of the glycans, the richest, highest grade source of galactose is arabinogalactan, and Mannatech have an exclusive agreement with the company that manufactures the arabinogalactan. The fucoidins, if you Google fucoidins alone, you'll see some extraordinary potential health benefits from adding fucoidins in and of themselves to diet. Our source of the fucoidins is wakame. It's actually from the pristine waters of Tasmania. And again, our fucoidin is the only one that's been triple refined from the wakame. That's as much as you can refine it and concentrate it. Most fucoidins out there are refined once, or if you're lucky, twice. Ours is the purest form of and most dense, nutritionally dense form of fucoidins. And Mannatech like to take care of a vegetarian and vegan family. So the glucosamine, which is one of the 8 glycans, is vegan friendly. But Mannatech didn't stop there. They also added, we're aware of the toxic load we're all facing. I've spoken about that in the presentation so far. There are 3 nutritional factors in this product that help detoxify both chemicals and heavy metals from the body, from the cells, through a variety of pectins and sodium alginate. There's a lot of science in there. You may have seen these factors before in other products, but be assured there's definition on what's most effective in these nutritional elements, and Mannatech have the highest quality in their products. And in addition to that, they also added, as a base of this product, standard rice bran extract. It is a superfood, and it contains over 100 nutrients. It's in this Ambitose Life as well. So we've got enhanced nutritional glycans, factors for detoxification, and a broad base of nutritional factors in Ambitose Life. So I'm sure the ladies that you've just heard from have already transferred to this Ambitose Life. And we recommend that you talk to the person that recommended you to this webinar to hear more about this new enhanced Ambitose. So as I draw this to a close, I'd like to highlight what I call our Nourish Yourself, Nourish a Child program. Mannatech call it the M5M Foundation. Now what this is every time our customers purchase product on a regular basis, the company on your behalf provide nutritional supplement to malnourished children throughout the world. And what they do is they provide a nutritional powder that has these glycans and a broad range of other nutrients to feeding programs, and they have it added to their food. And I've got a couple of examples of the transformation that the children experience when they receive these nutrients on a daily basis. And the first example is Aura here. She's from Guatemala. You can see her on the left before she received these nutrients. She's a very sad, depleted, malnourished little girl. She'd lost her hair and very low in energy. And you see her in 12 months after having this added to her feeding program. She's vibrant, she's thriving, her hair's grown back, and she's a happy little girl. On the right, we have Ingrid. You can see her transformation over a 6-month period. All the signs of malnourishment there on the left, the thin body and the balding hair. And again, you can see the improvement in her general health and vitality over a 6-month period of having received this nutrition into her diet. So our customers, love to know that they're not only taking care of their own well-being, they're taking care of a child somewhere in the world. And we're really proud that currently the M5M Foundation is nourishing around 100,000 children a month through their program. So I hope I've been able to impart to you the importance and value of these nutritional glycans and Ambitose offers to our foundational health. And Sharon's put on this slide the next best thing to breast milk. So we all know the value of having breast milk, in our early life in terms of our long-term health and immune system strength. So, I'd encourage you, get started on Ambitose, have a chat with the person that recommended you to the webinar, find out what the best choices are for you. Talk about, if you've already been on the Ambitose or the glycans, have a chat about transferring over to the Ambitose Life and receiving those improved nutritional offerings in that product. So with that, I thank you for your time and attention. I believe this information comes with some sense of responsibility. Someone you know, someone you love, someone you care about, could be praying to hear about this technology. So I encourage you to share it widely. Mannatech really are bringing this balance of science and nature to all of us, to benefit humanity. So back to you, Sharon.
Anna, God bless you. What a fabulous presentation. I know that we've got so many messages of gratitude in the chat, and I know this will be shared far and wide. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. We can't do this without you. Next week, we have Dr. Steve Nugent, and it'll be on this link, the same Saturday morning call link, and we'll be focusing on our brand new technology of Impact Plus. So sports, nutrition, and recovery and hydration. A 3-in-1 product would be fantastic. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Diana. Brilliant job. Appreciate everyone. And the recording will be available sometime in the next 48 hours. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next Saturday. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks, Sue.